Right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talking Baldocks. I'm back this week. I had a short break last week, but I'm back with a big bang, hopefully. I'm Neil Baldock, and this is my brother.
I'm Matt Baldock.
And I like to point that way, but I think sometimes when it comes out on the YouTube video, you're actually that way. So we'll see what happens.
All that way. Who knows where I am? Just keep your big bang away from me.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, so we're back. I think this is episode 8 actually, but we are talking about our 7 pain points that we think estate agents have, or actually we know because they're the same sort of pain points that we've experienced in our years of building our estate agency business. Um, and we're getting to the end of it now. So we've talked about kind of understanding your finances and getting the foundations of the business right. We've talked about actually getting your clarity of life and business goals. We've talked about putting effective marketing systems in so that you don't have a lack of leads. Then we've talked about KPI monitoring systems so that you've got some clarity around what's actually happening in your business. Um, we've talked about charging the right amount of money, charging the right fee structure, and charging your worth so that you're not running around like a busy fool. And now we want to talk about once we've put all of those things in place. Um, really, if you still haven't, or you still feel like you haven't got enough revenue, what can you do about that? And that really comes down to now looking at your sales process and your conversion rates. So, how can you get more out of what you've already got, I guess? You put all the other steps in place, and now you need to actually just enhance the performance of the business. So, that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, and will we also be included in that kind of other revenue streams?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's checking it. Have you got, have you got just one thing you're selling all the time and you're struggling with that? Have you got enough revenue streams in your business? So we'll definitely talk about that as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, do you want to start off with, if people are now getting the right amount of valuations, but they're still not listing enough property,
Yeah.
what do you think they can do to enhance that?
Well, I think it goes back to first of all, they've got to identify that. So we're talking about they're working a lot, they're not getting the revenue in. Again, a lot of us as agency owners, we're good at doing the job. We're not good at analysing the business. It's working in the business and on the business. And as you always say, you like to deal with facts, not opinions. And sometimes that can get skewed. So you think you're busy, you're running through treacle, or you've got calls coming left, right, and centre. And sometimes you can think you're doing more than you are, and you can think you're doing better than you are. So it all goes, nothing's complicated in life, right? It all goes back to the simple basics, breaking down the numbers, and having a look at it. So
Yeah, well, just on the numbers quickly. Sorry to interrupt your flow, but I just thought about this before we came on. Actually, and for me, I think numbers paint the picture. So a lot of people don't like the numbers, but actually, if you've got those numbers in front of you, you can just like see what's happening in the business. And then if you've got all of these leads coming in, all of these valuations being booked, but a lack of listings, those numbers actually paint the picture. Well, we've now got a problem with our valuer, for instance, and or our valuation process, and what can we do to make that better?
yeah, hence the phrase "painting by numbers," perhaps.
Hmm, very nice.
There you go. So, but I think, and I remember touching on this briefly in another episode we did. It's going to come down to honesty of your figures as well. So when you're looking at, so you're saying, let's say for argument's sake, you want to do 40 valuations a month, and let's say you want to do 10 valuations a month. It doesn't, I was with somebody yesterday. I was consulting with the fee level, the level of money they want to earn. They need to do 8 valuations a month. That's
Yeah,
fine for them. So you work out, but you have to be truthful about your conversion rate. And all estate agents are liars about their conversion rates, and that's the problem. And I don't know if people are purposely lying, but it's you don't have an 80 or 90% conversion rate unless, I mean, I do know a really good agent in prime London who maybe lists one property a month, but they're at £3 million and he's on kind of 2%, and he is very sad. But a general running agency where you're kind of trying to list multiple properties, because what agents do, and it's because you've done this at corporate level to try and get out of being told off and having a good enough conversion rate, you tweak the figures. So you only count ones that list. So you kind of
yeah,
so you go and see 10 properties, and you'll list two of them. and you'll go, I've got a 50% conversion rate. And I'm like, well, how's that then? You're like, oh, because only another two listed. So I listed two and I lost two. So only four went on the market and the other six don't count. Um, the other six very much count because if you are spending money on marketing to go and see those six properties, they have to count because you've got to work out why you're going and seeing properties that are never listing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because that's the thing. Evaluation is evaluation.
Yeah.
It's not. I always say to people, yeah, of course, we all want the marketing to be somebody phones us up and says, "I'm ready to list my house now." That'd be lovely, but we'd only get that once or twice a month, perhaps, and we wouldn't be getting the volume of leads we need and then the listings we need. So people have got to be honest about it. And if their conversion rate is lower because they're seeing more property and they're not all ready to list, well, frankly, that's just how it is. And yeah, you can look at what you're going out to see and why you're going out to see it. But if you know what I mean, I just think over time things have changed where people used to come to us a lot later in the process and said, Matt Neal, I'd like you to come and value my house because I'm looking to move. That's not the conversation that happens so much anymore, is it? It's
No.
like people are starting the process earlier.
Yeah, and listen, the agency is a long game, but if you are basically just doing free val, so if your marketing piece is free valuation, and people think, yeah, I have a free valuation, but I'm not looking to move in. Well, then, if, as I say, if you're seeing 10 properties and six of them are never, it's not just, oh, in a year, they're just not coming to market, well, then maybe just stop your only marketing channel being the free valuation option. So
Yeah.
that's just, something there. So number one, you have to be truthful with yourself about your conversion rate. Then the other bit is you have to be truthful and be aware of your sales rate because again, this is the one that most agents I speak to forget to do. They know they need to track their listings the valuations to listing conversion, even if it's a bit skewed. But then they always jump straight to, well, I've listed 10, so I've sold 10. And that's not the case because, again, there are very few agents out there that will sell 100% of what they're. I mean, I heard a scary stat a while ago. I think the national average was like 56% of
Mm.
what comes to market gets sold. Now, thankfully, we've got a higher rate here. And again, maybe we could do slightly lower because it's lower volumes. But I think the big factory agents are only selling like half of what they get, which just isn't on. So again, that's something you've got to work out because it all filters down to the little bit at the bottom because again, it's the funnel, right? So you're seeing all these properties, that's the big number. Be honest with yourself about how many you take on the market. That's a slightly lower number. Then be honest with yourself about how many of them actually sell. That's a slightly smaller number. Then be honest with yourself about what your fall through rate is. So are you working with 30% fall through rate, or do you really have, and yeah? And then that becomes a smaller number, and then that's what's exchanges, and then pretty much what exchanges does complete. So you might start off saying, well, I'm doing 40 valuations a month, but I'm so busy, I haven't got time there, but why haven't got any money? Well, because you're either not, you don't realize you're not converting well enough, either you're seeing them and you're not converting them to listings, or I'm listing 30, I've got seller care calls coming out my arsehole, but you're actually not selling enough. And that's the problem because the numbers get smaller the whole way they go down there. So again, it's numbers, well, I think numbers are boring, but I don't think these numbers are boring, funnily enough, because they're the one where you really know where you're going. But you've got to realize the big number at the top is not even going to be anywhere near the number that comes into your bank account down below. So you've really got to drill down into those numbers.
Yeah, yeah. Funny enough, I was having a meeting with our new sales manager yesterday, and he sort of said to me, people might not like this, but in some respects, um, when you break it down, the business model of a state agency, not the personal side of it, but the business model, it's a mathematical equation.
Mhm.
Um, so let's make sure you get the equation right, because if you get the equation wrong, you're just working your arse off, you're not making the revenue. And that goes back to some of the other points where you get lost and confused and you've got no clarity. So you get these numbers right, and then you've almost just got a blueprint of exactly what you need to do every month. And as long as you do that, you've got a very predictable business all of a sudden. So I think
And on that, sorry, you interrupted me once, so I'll interrupt you once, and now
I'll
it's
allow
now
it once.
now it's evens. Um, you need to know what your average fee is, and again, you've got to keep monitoring that. So we went through a phase in this business, where our average fee was one amount, and then I check every quarter really. all of a sudden come down. And I looked, we'd listed a lot of flats all of a sudden. So our headline numbers were there. We were listing the same amount of properties. So if you're just looking at what you're listing, you're not really that concerned about it. And all of a sudden I was like, why have we got less money? Well, actually, in pound notes, our average fee had come down because we were listing a lot of smaller properties. So
Mm,
again, that's something. And I think you probably just want to keep. I mean, it doesn't take 2 seconds to do, really. Depending on if you agreed 10 deals a month, and and you put 40 grand in your pipeline, then your average fee is 4 grand, right? So you can do it monthly, literally in 30 seconds. Um, but if you can do it at least quarterly and then keep track on it, because again, if you set all your numbers out, you do all the great work in January, and you go, right, I know on my conversions I need to list 30 houses a month for argument's sake. And then you get to December and you're like, this is 30 houses every month, but I haven't got any money. Well, it's because something has changed in the numbers. Either your conversion rate's changed or the pound note value of the transaction has changed. And that's something you need to make sure you're monitoring constantly.
definitely, definitely. So let's just try and focus a little bit on increasing the conversion rates because obviously this we're yeah, the whole thing, the whole system and operating model we've got all goes hand in hand. But
Yep.
um, we've got all the numbers straight. But now we're seeing valuations and we're just not converting enough. What can we do? Because funny enough, we've had this conversation in our own business, haven't we? That actually it's got to start from the start. When the valuation is booked, we've got to get that right. And then we've got an easier job when we go out and see the valuation. So, yeah, let's talk around that a little bit and the process.
So, I mean, I was trained, as many were in the corporate world, sorry, that the valuation should be one on the listing. Sorry, what an idiot thing saying. Of course, it should be. The valuation should be one on the phone call, to book the valuation, and that is really true. I actually think now we can even go further back and say the valuation should almost be one before they even phone you, because if you're doing the marketing right, as we previously said, the social media, they feel that they know you and they should be phoning you and saying, "Can you come out? You're there now." But let's take they're phoning three agents. Sellers don't like making those phone calls. Okay, you don't like the idea of phoning an estate agent. It's not. No one thinks, "Great, I get to speak to an estate agent today." But what you can do is have it when they put the phone down, they think, "Great, I really enjoyed speaking to that agent." You can change their mind. So it can't be the form. You don't work in a Chinese restaurant. You're not just taking orders. So they'll phone so and so estates on the high street, and they'll get name, address, email address, telephone number. Do you want a mortgage? Do you want a mortgage? Do you want a mortgage? No. Okay. How many bedrooms have you got? Bathrooms? Do you want a mortgage? Do you want a mortgage?
Yeah.
Etc. They'll get that a couple of times, but if they can get you and you can actually be professional and show empathy, ask questions and be genuinely interested in them, and you don't have to pretend, because actually, if you're not genuinely interested in people, you probably shouldn't become an estate agent anyway. But
Yeah.
actually, be asking about them, asking about their lives, pertinent questions. What are the top three things you're looking for from your estate agent? When you bought the property, how was the experience? If they've sold a property before, how was the experience when you last sold a property? So you're finding all this stuff out, and and they actually think you genuinely care about them. And again, the easy way to act like you care is to actually care. Um, but again, if you're finding out what's important to them, then when you speak to the value and you're sending them out, you say, right, you're going out to see Mrs. Smith at 1 Acacia Avenue. Just so you know, time scale is the most important thing to her, or she's not really bothered about time scale. Someone doing the viewing, I've had that. I've had someone, they've literally asked the question, will you do the viewings? Which we all think is common sense,
Mm.
but it's finding out what's important to them. Um, and if the person puts the phone down and they're actually looking forward to you coming out and seeing them, then half the battle's won.
Yeah, no, precisely, mate. And I think that's one of the reasons why, whilst there's a lot of technology in our industry and people peddling products that can automatically book viewings in and automatically book valuations in and all the rest of it, who wants to automatically book a valuation in? You wouldn't have developed any relationship with the customer at all. And the whole valuation booking process is really to set the valuer up for success and set the scene with the customer of what a great company we are, and develop a relationship with them. And as you say, it's really a lot of people treat it as a form filling exercise, and it is very bland. How many bedrooms have you got? How many bathrooms have you got? Where are you moving to? Whereas it should be a lot more open-ended questions and saying to people or tell, explain, describe, describe to me what your ideal house looks like. Tell me all about your plans. So it's just a conversation. It's not a valuation booking process. It's a conversation that leads to having a valuation booked at the end of it. Um, and we've identified a couple of things in our own business where there's some training requirements, and we see it all the time with other agencies we work with. And people phone up, and the first thing that's getting done is a time and date getting booked. And I'm saying to people, hold on a minute. We don't want to talk about a time and date that this valuation is happening until we've had a really good conversation and the customer loves us, basically. And we've found out all the information. We've shown them that we care about them. But I think, and that, we're quite passionate about that, aren't we? I'm showing that is like, it is key. And when you see a valuation call that's been booked in 2 minutes, I can instantly tell that that's not long enough. So it's no wonder your valuer is having trouble when he's going out to see them, um, because we're not setting up the valuer for success. So yeah, I think that is absolutely key to conversion rates is the client experience as soon as they first interact with you.
Yeah, I mean the client experience the whole way through is obviously key, but at that first interaction, and again, it's just not to get complacent because if you, I remember when you very first started the business and you get a valuation, you'd be so excited. Oh yeah, thanks so much. I'm really delighted to come and see. And you go a bit too. Sometimes you maybe go a bit too much, and then we can book a valuation with our eyes closed. Well that doesn't really matter on the phone, but it's just it, you do it every day, but that doesn't matter because just because you do it every day, the customer doesn't do it every day. And that's the kind of point. Imagine if you walked into a restaurant and you're quite clearly when you walk into a restaurant, gonna have a seat, gonna have a drink and go order some food. But imagine if they just let you they just let you choose your own place, come over to you, what do you want? Yeah, the bars. It's just not the experience that you want. Well, it's not an experience you've got to pay good money for. And that's the key. So, self-service restaurants have got their place. They're self-service estate agents. They charge a certain fee. But if you actually want to command the fee that you think you deserve, it has to be right from then on. There will obviously be occasions where you can't speak to the person for whatever reason. But that's where video comes into it because, we were listening. We had obviously Matt from PVS Media down to one of our conferences the other day that we were hosting. And I've heard other people say it. The brain can't really distinguish between meeting someone in real life and meeting them on a screen. That's why we think we know people, and people have this affinity to celebrities. That's why everybody was Team Molly May recently, and stuff like that. Have you lost a pen under your desk, by the way?
No, I've actually lost. Basically, I was trying to do something really discreetly because I'm about to start coughing. So I was going to have a little throat sweet, but then I dropped him on the floor, and now you've called me
Right.
out for it.
And I've called you out on this because we do record also for YouTube. But so yeah, people if they see you on a screen, they will think they know you. So I think in your pre-valuation, it shouldn't just be an email. I mean, nobody should just be sending the standard CRM email out to saying, thanks for calling us, Dave. We'll see you on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. That's useless. I know some people like to send things out in the post. Go and hand deliver them. See who's going that one way. Hand
Hmm.
deliver something. Personally, I think you should be sending a video out. So we use Ackerboom, but you could do something on Loom, you could do something on BombBomb, you could do something on WhatsApp, but just a quick video. Hey, really, really looking forward. My name's Matt. I'm the valuer. Really looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. If you've got any questions beforehand, please get in touch. I mean, we use a standard one, so we don't even record the date and the time. Right? I'm just like, I explain a little bit about me, a little bit about the process, and then invite them to ask any questions before I get there. Because when I turn up at the door, I want them to have some familiarity with who I am. So,
Hmm.
and again, we can link this all back in. So this can go back to the marketing. If they've seen you online doing stuff, they phone the office and the tone of the company is the same. They see your video and then the pre-valuation, and then you turn up at the door and you're the same person. You speak the same way. You're dressed in a similar kind of manner. I always wear a jumper. So if I turned up in a three-piece suit, it would be a bit weird. By the same token, if all your videos are going out in three-piece suits, then you turn up in shorts and a t-shirt, it would be a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
Um,
and that's why we call
but
this like we call it our estate agency business operating system because it's a whole system. You've got to get the whole thing right because yeah, you drop one ball and it lets the rest down. So it's getting all of these ducks in a row.
exactly. So, yeah. So the booking and the valuation is incredibly important. The pre-valuation communication is just the word really that should. So all the communication. So the pre-val communication, Then obviously on the valuation, you know, so are you prepared? Are you just what are you taking that other agents aren't taking? Are you just turning up with the right? And when you get there, is there just going to be a pile of Rightmove Plus reports? And it doesn't all have to be expensive stuff, but there's so much stuff out there you can use and data. And actually, as I discussed in the little solo podcast I did, the data that again, it doesn't have to be all polished that you've taken from other people. You can work out your own data. So you should very easily be able to know what percentage of your asking prices you got last month, how many percentage of houses did you actually sell last month. My favorite one is how much money did you negotiate for your clients?
Mm.
Because realistically, the average house seller doesn't want to be bombarded with data and stats. They want to know, are you likely to sell my house? And are you likely to get the best price for it? So if you can turn up and you can say, just so you know, the national average is 56% of properties that get sold, come to market sell. We sell 90%. I get 99% of my asking price. And on average, I'll negotiate you £7,000 more than the buyer originally wants to pay you. Yeah, that sounds fair enough,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Well,
Um,
that's looking at basic selling skills as well, and making sure because that's selling the benefits to the client of using
yeah.
you, not just the features. And you get a lot of agents go out and with it, we list the most property in the town. Well, where's the what's in it for me, for the client? Where's the benefit to the client? Whereas, we list X amount of properties, but we have this conversion rate, we achieve X amount more than any other agent, blah, blah, blah. You're actually selling the benefit to the client of using you, aren't you? So they can tangibly see the value.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's you should have been prepped if the phone call's been done right, you should be prepped as to what you think their needs are, their top three most important things. But by the same token, something could have changed overnight. So again, it should be asking, you should be listening more than you're talking, or on the valuation or the market appraisal or the market advice meeting, whatever you want to call it. Listening more than you're talking, listening and watching actually listening to what they say but watching how they say and watching their body language, and they you should ideally have had some skills in terms of communicating again with people, body language mirroring, all that kind of stuff. But you just want to make sure anything you're saying is addressing their needs. So either it's asking them then, or as you're explaining the benefits, then they're thinking, oh god, well that is important to me. Because again, a seller won't remember necessarily that you asked the questions when they booked the vow and when you said it. So it's like some Jedi mind trick, and it's nothing sneaky. It's just you doing your job properly. But most sellers, they're busy. So once that phone call's done, the kids are running around. They forget that phone call. So actually, if you can actually just address their needs, they'll be thinking, "God, this is exactly the person that I want to
Mm.
work with."
Yeah, 100%. And then I guess after you've completed the valuation, then it's all in the follow up as well, isn't it? And
Yeah.
what you do after, because you've done all the marketing to get you there. You've booked a perfect valuation. You've gone and given a great pitch, and then some people don't bother following up, and it's
Well, I
like,
was going to say that there's a yes. I mean, first of all, you've got the post valuation. So again, make sure don't just walk out the door and they never hear from you again. For a start, actually do, say we can. Again, I'm a big fan of video. The reason I like video post valuation is because more often than not, you won't meet both decision makers.
mm,
So rather than, if the husband was at home and the wife's at work and she comes home and says, "What did this agent say?" and he goes, "Oh, well, he said 1%, he said 1.25%, and he said 300, he said 320." That's not the information you want to be passed across. So again, if you can do a quick video mentioning, the missing party, saying, "Sorry, I didn't get to see you, that I love the kitchen for argument's sake. These are the setting points. I think these are the points I mentioned that it's important to consider when choosing your estate agent." So that helps. And then, as you rightly say, follow up, and you can agree a follow-up plan with them. You can say,
mm,
I'm going to call you Tuesday, and they'll go, and then, but they actually do it. What you tend to find with agents, especially listers and valuers, we do have egos. I think we weren't loved enough as children, and we were all scared of rejection. I think there's something maybe in that because we don't like people saying no to us. We take it personally. We don't hear, "I'm using another agent." We kind of hear, "I don't like you."
mm,
Because ultimately, it is there. Right? You're there in the ring. It's like a box. It's you versus everybody else. So get it followed up. Sometimes it's a good idea to get somebody else in the office to follow it up. You'll actually get more maybe honest feedback from the seller. So yeah, they're not, "Oh no, we really loved you, Matt. No, we really loved you. We're just," but actually, if somebody else phones, they might say, look, to be honest with you, Matt really annoyed us when he didn't take his shoes off.
Mm.
Or,
Yeah,
because everybody will say, "Oh, I lost that on fee, or I lost that on someone overvaluing it," and those things do happen. But there's usually something else in there. So sometimes getting somebody else to chase it is a bit better. But then continually, and it's not hounding people. I'm not saying you have to phone people every day, but by the same token, if someone says to you, let's say you're there in January and they go, "I'm not looking to do anything till July," right? Don't just phone them in July. 6 months is a long time. A whole variety of things can happen in people's personal lives. People can get made redundant, people can get ill, people can find their wife texting their best mate. Like loads of stuff happens that will move forward. So, if they say they're moving in July, they don't want to be phoned next week, the week, the week, the week. But make sure you're checking in with them fairly regularly. And of course, have some form of automatic nurture journey, like an email system or something like that, going on in the background to, so those all important touch points.
yeah, no, exactly. So, yeah, I think for anyone who's looking to increase their conversion rate, they've got to have a look at their whole valuation process, haven't they? Right from booking
Yeah.
all the way through to how they then follow it up and nurture it along the
And it's
journey.
going to be really uncomfortable. I would suggest, and we did this, I would suggest you actually listen to recordings of the valuation bookings. And not to say to anybody, "Oh, you're shit," but just because you get a bit complacent in your head, you're doing a really good job, but I think a lot of agents go through the motions without realizing it. So
Yeah,
have those awkward meetings and say, "Listen, this is going to be awkward for everybody because no one likes hearing their own voice on recording." But listen to it go and go, right, does that sound like somewhere someone's probably put the phone down and gone, "I can't wait for that to see that agent." And if
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't, start again.
The phone call reviews are powerful, and not just even in to be honest, not just for for every aspect of your business, not just for booking valuations, for booking viewings, but even for your property managers. Like, I'm going to start listening to their calls as well and just seeing what experience people are getting. Because
Yeah.
you say it's a coaching tool, not a criticism tool.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about this the other day. Just because a footballer's good at scoring goals doesn't mean they stop practicing, does it?
Exactly.
If they did stop practicing, they might not be so good at scoring goals anymore. So yeah, it's just continual professional
And they
development,
and
continual improvement.
using the sporting analogy, they watch tape, which is so that version of listening to a phone call. So they watch themselves play, how they struck the ball, the positioning when a goal went in, where was your positioning, where you there, and it's up to, because they're constantly doing it.
Yeah, well, actually, they go into granular detail, don't they? Like you say,
Yeah,
where did they strike the ball, what angle, everything. Same with us, and we shouldn't be afraid to do that. And your team, if they're the right team and they want to be high performers and high achievers, then they shouldn't be afraid of it either, because they should be looking to grow as a person all the time anyway.
no.
Um,
If you, I think really with it, I've just thought this. If you want a high achiever, you say high achievers are going to have egos, right? Because we want to do well, we want to be the best, we want to consider the best. But you just have to work a way out to lose the ego to be willing to train and realize actually I've been doing this for 20 years. Maybe I've got a bit complacent. It's not. Let me kind of have a refresh.
yeah, you just think all the time, have an open mind to, is there a better way?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so what about obviously of other things like other income streams? If people are just like, if they haven't, are they looking at their financial services business? Are they looking at conveyancing referrals? Have they got a lettings business? Um, Obviously, if you've not got enough revenue and you think you've done everything you possibly can and you've only got one revenue stream, then the other way to get more revenue is to offer other services.
Yeah, and listen, conveyancing in particular, it can be a dirty word on parts of LinkedIn in terms of the referral fees. I think we live in a world where everyone thinks everything is this or that. So it's like you can be kind or you can be successful. Do you know what I mean? You can be um, strong or you can be nice, and it's not. And it's the same with referral fees. It's not you can have a referral fee or you can have a good service. You can have a referral fee and you can have a good service, and
Yeah,
that's
well,
the
and you
point.
can demand a good service, can't you?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And listen, some referral fees get out of control, and you can't. The conveyancers probably can't do the service, but there are definitely some fantastic conveyancers out there who are willing to work with an agent and pay a referral fee, and likewise with mortgage brokers. And if I mean, if someone came to us and said, "Look, I've got a list of clients of houses to sell. Can you pay? Will you give me, a referral fee, all above board, of course?" You say, "Yeah," and it's the same with mortgage brokers. You're saying we've got people that want mortgages. We're happy to pass them to you. We want a referral fee out of it. most mortgage brokers are more than happy to do that. And then it's down to you to not just look at the pound notes on this, but to buddy up with the people that are going to give a great service
Hmm.
and you're going to get something back. Um, and then because the really good thing about mortgages and conveyancing is you don't just have to sell them to people that are buying houses from you. So really, as close to dreaming about earning money while you sleep, outside of a kind of a lettings book, is mortgages and conveyancing referrals. Because if you do everything right and someone really likes you, especially on the buying front, but you just don't have the house for them, you can't do a lot. But if they like you that much, they'll take your recommendations for your mortgages and your conveyancing. They can go and buy a house of ABC estates, and you can still earn out of it. And that's the bit you want to be doing. So where you kind of might thinking, oh look, well, I only ever list 10 houses a month, so I've only got 10 to 20 mortgage or conveyancing opportunities. No, you don't. If you register 200 buyers, you have got 200 mortgage opportunities. You've got 200 if they're buying and selling to 400 conveyancing opportunities. And that's the key. But again, that's really just about consistency and delivering such a service to them that they trust your recommendation.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And excuse me, it'll go the same with the lettings. I mean, that's could be another whole podcast in itself, is how to make sure you're making enough revenue and profit out of a letting agency. But um, most people obviously just offer lettings and management, and they don't offer any form of maintenance services or refurbishments or mortgages to their landlords. So it's just looking at what is our business and what other opportunities have we got, um, and then adding those in. Because often people think, oh, but it only makes me a tiny amount of money. But when you compound effect it and you've got
Yeah.
lots of tiny amounts of money coming in, then all of a sudden it can be another decent revenue stream. And the important thing is, there's a lot of these revenue streams that you can do with zero extra cost to your business because you've already got the people employed doing the lettings or doing the sales. And much like it's the it's much like the principle in a McDonald's when they used to say they asked every customer, "Do you want to go large?"
Yeah.
And and all they were doing is offering you the opportunity to have a larger meal and pay a bit more money for it.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're not serving large Big Macs around here, but
It's a shame.
what we're saying, yeah, we might have eaten a few at that time, but what we're saying is if you ask the question, you've got a 50% chance of yes. And then if you ask the question in the right way and position it correctly, you can increase that even more, which goes along with conversion rates. So, but the first thing is ask for the business. And I think that's where a lot of people don't. They don't even ask for the business. So they've got a 0% chance of getting any extra business because they haven't asked for it. So yeah, I think there's lots of opportunities to not just offer sales and lettings and to do other things in a property business. And sometimes maybe that's a mindset shift to we're not just an estate agent, this is a property consultancy business. And there's lots of things that go along with a property and lots of different things people need throughout that property journey. Um, so yeah, I think there's a
I,
whole host of
I, I
opportunities.
used to use that line in my early days of networking. I used to say, if it's got four walls and a roof, I can do something. I can sell it, I can rent it, I can help you refinance it, I can help you make it look nicer. There's loads of stuff that you could, as estate agents, you're the gatekeepers really to all these other kind of industries and trades. And again, you make sure everything's done for the right reasons and with the right people. But there is no shame in earning money off helping people.
That's right. Yeah, so as long as they need the service,
Yeah,
and if somebody needed a new extension, they're going to go and get that extension either way. So if you end up putting them in touch with a reputable builder that you have vetted and worked with and has proven themselves with other clients, etc., there's value in that. So yeah, I think again, we could probably talk for days about stuff like that, but it's just opening your mind and changing your perception of what you do on a daily basis, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think if anyone wants any advice on that, get in touch with us. We always like to say like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you've got any other specific topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast as well, then we'd be delighted to hear about those as well.
Goodbye.
Okay, right. I think that's a wrap then, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Thanks.